the very first thing I did was put a border around the cookie in yellow where the rope was going to be, because if I would pipe blue all the way to the edge and then put the rope on top of that, most likely I would have some bleeding, because my cookies always bleed. And this doesn't have to be perfect, because I'm just going to pipe the rope right on top. Now, if you don't have issues with bleeding, then you can definitely skip this first step and just put blue all the way to the edge. But I'm definitely not going to skip it. Because I usually have issues for one reason or another. All right, the next thing I did was I put the globe on in white. And the icing that I'm using right now is a little bit thicker than the icing that I used on the actual set. Let me see if I can make this a little bit clearer. All right, I guess that's as good as we're gonna get. Okay, so the icing that I'm using right now is a little bit thicker than what I used with the actual set. I ran out of that consistency. Maybe it was like a 30 or a 25 or something like that. This is what I used to pipe the letters. So I ran out of the stuff that I originally used for this world, but I don't feel like making more for the video, so we'll just use the thick stuff. It's probably not going to settle quite right, but that's okay. Just for the video. I had 2 whites, one for the world and then one for the writing. This is actually thinned out a bit, so this was my piping consistency for the words and the rope that goes around the anchor, but now it's like too thin for that, but I'm not going to change it. Only doing 1 cookie. All right, the next thing I did was the red. And it doesn't have to be super perfect, because between the red and the blue, you're going to pipe a gold ring around it, right where they meet. And this might be a little bit thicker than what I used for this set. I had to mix more because I didn't have enough to do the video, and I knew it was too thick and I didn't feel like changing it. So you might want to go a little bit thinner than this. This won't settle that nice, but that's okay. I'll just have to help it along a little bit more than I did for the actual set. So if you thin this out a little bit more, you won't have to work so hard. So I am going to go ahead and just use the scribe just to make sure it settles and is touching both sides of the borders I just piped. I am going to increase the height of that globe. It's a little bit low right now. So after I flood this red and then do the blue, I'm going to put the cookie in the dehydrator for 20 minutes. And then when it comes out, I'm going to pipe another white world globe on top. and it'll make it puffier, and it'll also clean it up. You can see it's a little sloppy here between the red and the white, but that'll clean up later. And then we'll just do the blue. And I think the blue is probably not quite the right consistency. I'm actually running out. I just mixed a wee little bit for the video. So if you just make it a little thinner than I have it, maybe a 25-ish, 20, 25, maybe 20 is good. It'll settle a little bit better. And then we'll just fill in the middle. And so you do not have to be perfect between the blue and the red, because we're going to put a little trim right on top where the blue and the red meet, and then also that yellow on the outside is just getting piped right over top. So I wasn't really working too hard to make that pretty. I did try it on one cookie for the set. Tried to make it like really nice on the outside, even though it was just getting covered up, and it was like taking forever. So I was like, no, we don't need to do that. And again, you can just put the blue all the way to the edge of the cookie and pipe the rope right on top. But I have bleeding issues, and since I was giving these to somebody, even though they were free, I didn't want that bleed to happen. And I did use like a butter colored yellow for the rope and the anchor and the eagle, because I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to paint it gold or not. But if I were to do this again and I knew I was painting gold, then maybe I would just use white for everything, because my gold look a little brassy. And that's okay, because the actual image itself that I'm using kind of looks a little brassy. But if you didn't want to make it so brassy, then maybe use white instead of this butter yellow. All right, so this is going to go in the dehydrator for 20 minutes, and then I'll take it back out and we'll just continue on with the next layer. Now that the cookie has been in the dehydrator for 20 minutes, I'm going to do the next layer of items. One is going to be to put another layer on the world, because I want it to have a nice dome shape. And again, this consistency that I'm using right now is left over from the piping consistency that I used for the letters and the rope. And while it thinned out from when I actually made the set of cookies, it's still thicker than what I used for the actual world or globe. So it will settle probably a little bit better for you if you just thin it out a little bit more. I don't know what the consistency really is count-wise, because I don't do so good with the count, but maybe like a 25 or 30-ish or something that settles a little bit better on its own. Since this thinned out a little bit from the first day that I used it, it's actually settling more than what I expected. So we'll do the rope and then this. So this, you do want to be as careful as you can, because you don't want it to be on one side or the other. You want it to be right in between the red and the blue. Now, I'm kind of in an awkward position trying to do this video, so I can't really lean over the cookie like I normally would to get a better view. But this will be good enough for the demo. Just try to make it line up pretty good when you're doing it. All right, the rope is a thicker consistency than the yellow that I just piped. And the way that I did the rope was I just made little rainbows or little bridges or arches. So just a little rainbow. And then where the end of one rainbow is, I will connect it with the start of the next rainbow. So make the little rainbow arch and then connect back to the end of the previous rainbow. So make the rainbow and then connect to the previous as you make the next rainbow, starting at the end of the previous rainbow. Make another one, starting at the end of the previous arch, make another arch, starting at the end of the previous. So I'll just stop the video while I finish this. It doesn't take as long as everybody probably thinks. It probably takes me about 1.5 minutes or so to get all the way around. So I'll be back when I'm done. So I'm just making little arches, little rainbows. And so I'll make an arch and then I'll touch down. And then where the previous arch ended, that's where I'll start my new one. So make an arch, touch down, and then start where the last one ended. Make the arch, touch down, start where the last one ended, make an arch, touch down, start where the last one ended. And then as I get close to the end here where they connect, I just kind of like try to make that last arch and then fold it back on itself and press down. And just try to tuck that in for that last arch. Tuck his one side back down and in. So I'm going to now put this in for 5 minutes in the dehydrator because I want that world or globe to kind of crust back up, and then we'll finish the last set of details after that globe gets a crust. All right, the next thing that I am going to do now that this has been in the dehydrator for another 5 minutes, just so that globe crusts up, is I'm going to do the top part of the eagle. Now you can probably make the hole a little bit smaller than what I have it, but I think I attempted one and it was fine, so I just went with it. Maybe if I did this again, I would cut a smaller hole. And then it is going to have a little bit of spread, so I am going to make sure that I leave room for that error to happen with his head. And I'm not 100% lining it up with the actual eagle underneath. I'm exaggerating some of the movements so that if there is a little spread, he still looks like an eagle. And then he'll crust up while I do the rest of the yellow parts or gold parts. And then I'll come back and do his tail. So then I'll just go ahead and do the anchor. I didn't try to get very detailed because my skill level is not detailed. Maybe this could have been a little bit thicker and it would spread less. And then the anchor I didn't 100% follow. I just kind of did the gist of it. Moved it a little bit further away from the globe than I think it actually is, where it's being projected. Can't really see what I'm doing 100%, so it doesn't really have to be perfect. And again, if this were a little bit thicker maybe and a smaller hole, then you can make it more precise than what I have it. And I'll just bring this up so that it touches the world. All right, the next thing is going to be the yellow parts on the world, and I didn't try to get very precise because I didn't have the piping hole small enough or the icing thick enough. So it was just the gist. Of the shapes of the countries. But again, if you want it more precise, just thicken up the icing a little bit and make a smaller hole. All right, so we'll go in and we will do the tail. Just gave that eagle a couple minutes to kind of crust up. I didn't put the feet on or try to get detailed on the wings. I don't have that skill set. Now what I did was a little assembly line of 6 cookies at a time. But I'm going to do that piping right away before this actually has time to crust. But if you are doing like 6 at a time, then you should be good to go. And it'll be crusted up enough so that the white doesn't melt into the yellow. But I'm just going to go for it right now. Or this could go into the dehydrator for 5 more minutes as well. So I'm just going to do this probably before I should be actually doing it. Really don't want to wet on wet. But that's what it is going to be for the video. I just did 6 cookies at a time, so by the time I was done with the 6th cookie, the yellow part for the 6th cookie, I could backtrack on this white. I could have definitely done a better job with the rope, but I was tired and the cookies were free. I was just giving them to somebody, so I went with it. All right, the last thing, whoops, I forgot the little ribbon or banner coming out of his beak. The last thing is the writing on the outside. And I could have probably had a smaller hole cut in the bag. But I was fine with what I did. If you had a smaller hole in the bag, you probably can put the little serifs on. Make it look a little fancier. I'm not really too concerned about making this pretty. I did take my time more when I was doing these for the actual set. And the last thing to do is just paint on some gold. I used the yellow for the rope and the eagle and anchor, so when I painted this in gold it got a little bit brassy, so maybe if I did this again I would just do it in white and the gold would look a little bit better. And then also I can see that the anchor and the eagle is spreading a little bit, so that icing probably should be a little bit thicker than what I had it.